Welcome to Kingdom Love Podcast with Danny and Denise.
Whoa.
We finally made it, girl.
Finally. Whoa.
It has taken forever and a day, but
I
we
know.
are here.
Yes.
And thank God for that.
Yep.
It's been a labor of love, and we are super excited about just this whole time and what's going to happen with this podcast. We have no idea.
We have no idea.
We know that it was something that several people called it out and asked for it. And we just felt that what we've been sharing with married couples and with singles and just with folks in general for over, 20 years of ministry, we said, let's go ahead and give this a shot and see what'll happen, right?
Yes. Who are we going to touch? Who are we going to bless, edify?
Yes. So we're excited.
Yeah.
Kingdom Love Podcast with Danny and Denise.
So exciting.
And
this year we're going to be 28 years together.
Yeah, we're coming up on our 28th year wedding anniversary. We got married when we were 5. And
you have to stop, really, for real. You have to stop using that little joke. It's not even funny anymore. I'm laughing not to cry.
You're laughing not to cry? Come on, it's a little bit funny.
But anyways, let's share with our friends here our love story.
Oh, you just want to jump right into it?
Let's just right into it.
All right, so 28 years. We have a little bit of a different version. So we have yours that is like the
dramatic
Denise contemporary version. And then I come in with the real way it happened version.
So should I start? Should you start?
Tell you what, why don't you start, and then I'll just be like, that's not exactly what happened there. And then we go back and forth. Okay.
In 1994, I started Naya College.
You're aging us by saying that.
Okay, 1994, I started Naya College, and I actually had prayed to go to a Christian school, and I did not know what that was going to bring, but I really wanted that kind of setting. And I started in January of 1994, Naya College in New York. And you started?
In August of 94.
94. And after, okay, let's just continue.
Just keep talking, don't worry about it. You can edit or not.
Dating around, always wanting to settle, always dating and just trying to find love. I actually quite didn't get there. In 1995, that spring, I went into the prayer closet. Every college has a prayer closet.
Wow.
And I prayed and I said, Lord, is it for me? It's my desire. I want to settle. For those who don't know me, I've been an orphan since I was 15 years old, almost 15. Was born in New York, raised in Puerto Rico, 15 years old. Almost at 16, I was shipped back to New York. I had no idea what the language was. Had to learn English really fast. And so forward a few years later.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
by point of clarity, because when you say shipped, in the climate that we're in, where we're not immigrants, by the way, Puerto Ricans are American citizens. Yes, I just got to throw that in there because when you say shipped, somebody be like, ooh. And so you came on a plane.
I had to relocate back to New York on a plane. And I prayed and I gave my life to Jesus at the age of 16 under the leadership of Pastor Carlos Peña, who I still love so much.
Shout out to Carlos Peña.
They are my foundation, where it all started in La Iglesia Unida Evangélica of Union Avenue in the Bronx, New York.
Excuse me, Dr. Carlos Peña on Theory Avenue in the Bronx, the church there.
That was later on.
The
first church, and I was a teenager going to church, being obedient to my aunt, because in Puerto Rico, I did not want to know anything about Jesus. And I remember my grandmother saying, I'm going off a tangent right now, but I remember my grandmother saying, I have to buy you skirts so you can come to church with me. All the Pentecostales. And I said, no, that's not for me.
Nothing like the days of legalism.
That's not for me. But when I went to New York, I met Jesus. And forward a few years later, I'm in Naya College. And I prayed. And I went into that prayer closet. And I had 2 things in my heart. Save my brother, my sister, Jesus. And I want a husband. I want my own marriage. And the Lord spoke to me that day. And he said, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And that's in Jeremiah 29:11. And I took that to heart. And I prayed. After that, it was the summer, went to Puerto Rico, came back. And I saw you one morning.
Woo, girl, you saw me and the Lord said,
was as
that's
if,
him.
And this is after I went to homecoming with your roommate and you went with one of my floor mates as friends. Yep. And we connected in such a way that
Finally
And
came to your senses, girl. Says that boy
I
is for me.
guess. And I ran home and I told my cousin and I said, I found him. And she said, treat this like a Christmas gift. Don't open it before it's time. And that's when they hit me. And I waited and the Lord kept confirming, even to the color of your eyes.
Watch out now.
And that's how it happened.
Oh, is it getting hot in here?
That's how it happened. What about your version, sir?
No, I got no problem with that version. It's pretty good. And then we began on October 29th, 1995 is when we spoke that night for about 4 hours. And the next thing I know is I just knew that I knew. That scripture where it says bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Just had that aha moment. I said, this is my wife.
Nobody can convince me otherwise.
I just knew. And the following weekend, I went home because October 29th, 1985, that was a Sunday evening into a Monday morning. And 5 days later, I went home on that Friday night, went to my parents, and I said, I need to speak with y'all. And I said, I met my wife. And my dad was like, oh my gosh. And my mom, of course, with that serious look. And yeah, we could have got married that night. I've always said we could have got married that night. And it has been an amazing journey.
An amazing journey.
Two poor, broke college kids. All they had was Jesus and love.
We wanted to honor God.
Kingdom love.
Kingdom love.
That's when we found kingdom love, right? And so we basically we still had a year of college left. We ended up making that work. And you went, I worked full time. I took a year off so you could finish. That was important to me. And then the idea was to flip it. And then, however, when you finish, the plan was for me to go back. I did go back. But these crazy kids who still broke, no money, no steady job.
Decided to have a baby.
You know what? Why don't we start our family? Because we want to be parenting young. And we probably wouldn't advise others that way. But we also don't get in the way of that either. But
I prayed.
We just knew. We knew
yes.
that this is what was supposed to happen. And as a matter of fact, on my college graduation picture, I'm holding our first child, our first daughter, Kayla, in our arms. And a shout out to KK.
And I was pregnant with Emily.
You were pregnant with Emmy. Shout out to Emmy. One day they'll be on the pod with us. And it was just amazing because we've just seen how faithful God has been to us and how we've made it. We've seen the ups and downs, the having no money, but we've had all this love. That's an amazing thing, and we've had so much fun.
And it's incredible because I come from a background where love was not a kingdom love. There was love, but it was probably shown through dinners and food, and coffee, but not through God's love, God's intended way of loving us.
Wow.
And I thought I was going to have a hard time marrying a sane person.
A sane person?
I'm sane person.
Thank God.
Who comes from a privileged background.
Okay, so let's clarify privilege, because you helped me to see this one day. Because in the context of our society, when we talk privilege, we immediately think money or status or something like that, place of position with status. But really, when you helped me to see that, because we were raised poor, raised in the projects, public housing.
Yes. And
we didn't have a lot of material possessions. A lot of times we didn't have a vehicle, 5 pair of pants, 5 shirts for school, 1 pair of sneakers, and you wore those either you outgrew them. And even then you stretched that a little bit, or they had a hole in them or whatever it may be. But you helped me to understand that one day as far as privilege, because in the midst of all of that, I had a mother and a father
and Jesus
that were in love with each other.
That's right.
And that Christ was the center of our home, where we were forced to go to church Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, all day. It was Sunday Bible school back in the day where they had Sunday school and then service in New York. And then when we didn't have service, we had service at home. And so that was
Culto de hogar.
Culto de hogar. Shout out for those that are our Spanish audience out there. And so it was one of those things where I was privileged because I was raised, number one, as time goes on and we get to have more, as folks get to know us more throughout these episodes on the podcast, they'll know that my greatest hero in my life is my dad. And Juan, we call him Horny Juan because he had all these kids. He liked to procreate. And that's in love that we call him that. But this man, this mighty man of God who, and we'll talk about his story throughout the episodes. Right now, this is just an introduction to get to know a little bit of us or whatever. and
He overcame a lot.
He overcame the stuff that he did. He's the one that broke barriers so that his kids didn't have to face those same demons.
Did you mention that it was 5 of you?
There are 5 of us. I'm the oldest of 5. And so we basically...
So you were a privilege?
We were raised privileged.
You and your 4 brothers.
And my three brothers and a sister. So we have our queen in the center, our princess. Shout out to Betsy. And that we love a whole bunch. And so it was privilege. We were privileged because we had a mother, father. All of my friends, most of my friends were in the projects that we were raised in. There was either a grandma, which is the matriarch of that household, or there was no dad in the picture, just a mom. And so the fact that I had a mom and dad who were very committed and dedicated to us. My dad worked. I've never known my dad not to have less than 2 to 3 jobs, ever.
Wow.
And my mom was a stay-home mom. We had a hot meal every single day. So yeah, we were privileged. But more so than that, they introduced us to Jesus.
Wow.
And so
Incredible.
that was the main difference between you and me, that I came from a household where there was where the roles were clear of husband and wife, and what the roles were, where there was mutual submission. It was not, my dad never was a dominant dictator. He was a servant leader. And so we'll talk about that on the pod as well, what that means for married couples. And so, yeah, I was privileged when my eyes were open to that. I say, wow, yeah, you're right. Because it's not the money that made a difference. It was the time spent and the lessons that we were taught and all of that. I can go on and on.
Yes.
But shout out to my mom and dad, who are, without a doubt, represent the kingdom of God with excellence on this earth. They've done that
Praise
for their
God.
whole, they've been married for how many years now? 50 what?
51.
Going on 51.
July, yes.
So 51 years of marriage, and they've been model citizens, but they have modeled the kingdom of God and kingdom love on this earth.
Praise God.
For as long as I've known them, and just amazing people.
So you were privileged. I came from a household where women were the strong ones. And yes, we had a grandpa. My dad was non-existent. He died when I was super young. Not part of my life. But I had my papi, which was my grandpa, and he was my all. He gave us what he could, and he showed his love. And my grandmother was the matriarch. She was a strong, powerful woman.
Single mom.
Who was
I'm sorry, your mom was single.
My mother was a single mother, and then she met my stepdad, and then she had my brother, my sister, but showing me how faithful she could be, how loyal she could be, and strong, and never take anything from anybody, and try the whole Jesus thing. And at the end, she did go back to Jesus, and she was a strong woman who modeled how to be a professional, educated. But there was no Jesus, plainly and simple. So that was what was missing in our home. So me meeting sane guy, I always say sane because you have Jesus. That's what makes us all sane.
With the eyes.
With the eyes. What do you mean the eyes?
No, because earlier you said the eyes.
Okay, so
I think you said something about eyes, right? Didn't you? No? Oh, okay, never mind.
your beautiful eyes. I know, we all know that. So I was like, how am I going to fit in this family who has it all together? And here I come broken, not understanding that Jesus already paid the price and he made me whole. But I was way too young to understand that in the faith.
Yeah.
And so then later on, I understood that he made me whole and that he made me worthy. And he made you worthy of me and made me worthy of you, because nobody comes all perfect. We were not perfect. But Jesus in the midst made this broken puzzle whole and perfect.
Wow.
But those are my struggles in the beginning of us being together. I struggle a little bit with that. Mm-hmm. Am I worthy of this love? And Jesus was saying, yes, you are. Doesn't matter what your background, your past is your past. You are a new creature. So everything that we're living is basically on my side is all new. All new. I have husband, children, and Jesus. And I don't need anything else.
We got 3 beautiful kids.
3 beautiful kids.
All adults.
Yes. Empty nest. And this is, by the way, this is what we do when we have an empty nest. Our child leaves and we made it into a podcast studio.
Into a podcast studio.
Yes. It took us how many years? Almost 3 years she left?
Yeah. Well, it used to be the office.
No, 2 years. 2 years she
used
left.
to be our office, but then we converted this into the Kingdom Love Studios.
Studio.
studio, not studios. You only got one. When another kid runs out or leaves us, we'll convert that room into a different setting, right? No,
Yes.
kid.
But the next room will probably be the gym.
Oh, dear Lord.
Let's try that.
More equipment to hang clothes on.
Yeah. So that's our story.
Yeah.
That is our story. And I hope to hear everybody's story. I'm sure they have interesting stories full of hope.
Honey, you forgot to mention something very important.
Tell me.
And very recent that has happened to our family.
Oh.
We've grown because our oldest daughter, who was married 2 years ago, her and our son-in-law, shout out to Kaylin Kalevi, gave us our first grandchild.
Grandchild.
Baby.
Mateo.
And
Mateo Gabriel.
Mateo Gabriel. Pop loves you. Shout out to Mateo. And you're going to say Mima loves you?
Mima loves you.
And so we're super excited and just to see the family continue to grow. And that's
like I cannot wait for us to finish today and go see him.
I talked to Kayla this morning, and I told her that if she was okay if I, for one episode, would hold him in my arms while we had the episode. She was like, "Of course, Daddy." So Mateo will be will be on one of our podcasts.
Yes,
he'll come to the pod and just hold him in our arms while we're talking and just really doing life. And really, that's what we really aim to do. One of the things that we aim to do here, we want to just keep it real and keep it chill as far as this pod, nothing formal, just having conversations.
Yes.
And one of the things that we did before starting this, you have put together a survey. We sent it out and we got responses. So probably on our next episode, we'll probably go through the questions that were asked and we'll see how that goes. This is going to be a very fluid process.
And we're going to do this once a week?
Yeah, we're going to put out a new episode every week, God willing.
Once a week, yes.
Once a week. We think that we're going to launch the first episode. We'll be soon. We're not going to put the date. Soon we'll be coming out, but we'll definitely be announcing it on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok. Watch out now. You'll handle all the social media.
Yes.
But definitely we are super excited about what God is going to do during these times. And we'll just see. We're going to hopefully have we're going to have some guests that will come on and we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about relationships, whether they are in a marriage setting, premarital setting. I'm so excited that we'll be able to share. Divorced. We'll talk to divorced folks. We'll have them that are willing to come on the pod. And we're going to have some live sessions of folks that will just announce it, have a night where they can call in, send in their questions. And we really want this to be something where that it's really impactful and helpful to people. We want to provide application. We want to provide application for life, how to do it. It's amazing how many relationships are hurting.
I know.
And one of the things that stood out to me, one of the most recent services that we went to, that was a packed house. Thousands of people were there. And it was a season of just prayer and seeking God at the church. And one of the things that they said, we want to pray for marriages and those that need help. And what stood out to me was, number one, the number of people that were in need for their marriages. They needed help in their marriages. And it was so many people that stood up in the room. And what was even more impactful to me, that majority of them were women. And so that spoke to me volumes as to, number one, and we've known this because we've been doing marriage ministry and marriage counseling and premarital counseling for over 20 years. Yeah. And we've seen some pretty sad scenarios. Love the great success stories, but we've also seen the unfortunate times in marriages and in couples. And we're really hoping that we can speak to that in the midst of this podcast and really just help as many people as we can. So we don't take this lightly. And this platform that God has given us. It's a heavy responsibility. I'm sorry?
It's a heavy responsibility.
Yeah, we don't take it lightly for sure. And we definitely want to be able to help as many as we can. So we're going to have those moments where folks will call us live. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. I actually love that. And that's really our goal, our purpose. And see what God does with this podcast. And
we just want to advertise what the Lord has done for us, because I'm sure that it's going to work for others.
Yeah.
The Lord is an amazing, forgiving doer.
Restoring, healing. God.
And he's a God of second, third, fourth chances and so on. And we just need to put our trust in him. And I put my trust in this podcast because I know that God is going to do his thing. And it's not about us. We're only here to bring his message and advertise his love for his kingdom and for his children.
Yeah.
And that's it. We just want to bring about his blessings through the microphone.
Absolutely. Do you want to wrap up or?
Sure, let's wrap up.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up, and our next episode probably we'll talk about two things. We'll talk about Kingdom Love, what that means for us, why we decided to call this podcast Kingdom Love, and then go into some of those questions. And the reason why most relationships are not healthy and are suffering is because folks are not being honest. And if you're not being honest with yourself, then you definitely can't be honest with the person that you're trying to share this life with. And we'll talk about as to the why. So
Yeah,
we're
we're going to dig deeper into that.
Dig deeper as to why are folks not being honest. That's a whole thing that we'll talk about.
Yes.
That can take an infinite amount of episodes because it has to do with relationships. We're involved in relationships all day, every day. Work relationships, married relationships. Are you excited?
I am so excited.
I'm so excited.
I don't know what to expect, but at the same time, I'm expecting great things.
Yeah.
So
for me, if folks will get something that it can be helpful to them in their life, because we'll jump into statistics at some point and all that stuff because we do that in our regular work. But the fact of the matter is that there are 5 out of 10 marriages end in divorce, and that's outside the church and inside the church. Some stats will say 4 out of 10, still not good.
That's right.
And that tells us that there's a problem, because if 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 that is not working out, there's something wrong. So that lets me know that we need to do a better job teaching what marriage is, what it's not, dealing with all of the myths, correcting things, and really not calling people out, but calling them up.
Exactly.
As to what that means for them and making that decision. So I'm excited about it. We keep saying that.
I'm so excited. Okay. So
what else? You want to say anything before we cover today?
No, I think you've said it all.
You sure?
Yes.
I do want to tell you one thing. I'm sitting across from you and I'm like, this is such a beautiful woman. We did leave out that part in the podcast. And when we first started, not the podcast, when we first talking about our story, that when we got together, we left out a very key part that some of the fellas at school was like, yo, Dan, how'd you do that? I'm like, come on, I can't tell you everything. I got the hottest girl on campus.
Oh, thanks.
And almost 30 years later.
And a few pounds.
And a few more pounds?
Heavier.
Like the show Friends. The camera adds a few pounds. How many cameras are on you? But I just want you to know that I love you and I think you are just absolutely gorgeous.
And I love you too, and you're not too by yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate that, girl. Come on,
man.
We're about to turn off this camera and have another
Kingdom
podcast.
Love.
Have some real Kingdom Love. All right, Kingdom Love podcast. We're out of here.